Cardio does not have to be boring. You don't have to just go on a light run or do low intensity treadmill walking for hours on end. Instead, gamify your cardio. One of the ways that I have been doing this is through the Murph Challenge. The Murph Challenge, or quote, Hero WOD, as some like to call it, is a CrossFit workout that is typically done once a year on Memorial Day. This workout originated from Lieutenant Michael P. Murphy, as this was one of his routine workouts. You may have heard of Lieutenant Murphy, as he is reenacted in the movie Lone Survivor and also has a documentary on his life, Murph the Protector. If you want some motivation and to learn about his origins, I'd recommend you check those out. Now, regarding what this workout actually is, it is a 1 mile run followed by 300 bodyweight squats, 200 push-ups, and 100 pull-ups, followed by another 1 mile run. The completion of this workout is impressive, but the way that it is tracked is by time. How long did it take you to complete this full workout? So the next thought is, how do you go about that? How do you split up 300 bodyweight squats, 200 push-ups, and 100 pull-ups? Well, ultimately, it is completely up to you. The way that most go about it is to do repeated rounds of the certain amount of squats, then a certain amount of push-ups, then a certain amount of pull-ups. For my level of fitness, I am currently doing this once a week. The order that I do it is the 1 mile run, then 15 rounds or 15 sets of back-to-back-to-back exercises. So it's 20 squats, then straight to 14 push-ups, then straight to 7 pull-ups. When I finish the squats, I immediately go to the push-ups, and then straight to the pull-ups, and then right back to the top with the squats again without resting. Ideally, you can do this all without a break, so you must pace yourself enough to be able to do it with the least amount of rest. Remember, time is the metric. Last week, when I was doing my 15 rounds, I broke it up into 5 rounds at a time, followed by a 1 minute rest, then another 5 rounds, another minute rest, and then the last 5 rounds, followed by a minute rest, and then the run back. Although I set a PR time of 38 minutes and change, I was not too happy about having that 1 minute rest in between every 5 rounds. It's pretty costly to just stand there for a minute and not really do anything. So I felt I was giving up a lot of time, and also my heart rate was really elevated the whole entire workout. That's when I thought, maybe let's just reset every single set, but just for about 10 seconds. That way, I'm not taking any extended rest like 1 full minute, and I'm getting a chance to lower my heart rate in between every single set. So, as a means of counting to 10 seconds, I was just using 10 breaths of the measure. This sounds okay on paper, but go figure that 10 breaths is not even close to 10 seconds. After watching the tape here, I'm probably taking anywhere from 20 to 40 seconds of rest on each set. This dramatically slowed down my overall time, which isn't good. But what this did do is allow me to do 15 sets in a row without any of that extended 1 minute dedicated rest. The thing is, 15 rounds doesn't actually sound that bad, right? But another factor is that you can't just go all out on those 15 rounds of bodyweight exercises. That's because you still have to run 1 mile afterwards. So you do have to pace yourself enough to where you can complete and thrive in that mile. If you just blast through the bodyweight exercises, but then can't complete a mile because your heart rate is so high that it feels like a sprint, then congrats, you messed up. But don't get discouraged from this, because this is also the fun of it all. That's the game aspect that I referred to earlier before. What different ways can you play with the mile, the sets and reps of the bodyweight exercises, and your mental thoughts to get it all done in the shortest amount of time possible? The most common question that I get is, why are you doing this sort of challenge? Why are you doing such aggressive cardio to where you know it is counterintuitive to you getting as strong as possible? Well, there are a host of reasons. But first off, I am just seeking a challenge. I enjoy looking forward to doing something that I'm not confident that I am able to do. When you're stuck in the routine of traditional powerlifting training or bodybuilding training, you pretty much know what you are going to do for that whole month. You're never in a place of extreme discomfort, something where you're not confident if you're able to do it or not. Especially if you are training smart and training with the right intensity in mind, you pretty much know what you are getting yourself into each workout and how much you are going to exert yourself in every single workout. As opposed to this sort of training, you are in deep waters. You are constantly uncomfortable, and therefore you're constantly challenging yourself to grow as well. To develop this ability to know that you can endure longer than you did previously, that sort of progression is very motivating. In fact, I would argue that this is the sort of progression that is exactly what we seek for in powerlifting, where we're looking to set personal records and to really push the limits of what is possible. If you have been strength training for a while, the personal records just don't come as quick as they used to. In fact, it's pretty black and white when you are able to set a personal record. They won't just come out of nowhere. You might even spend months training hard, pushing towards that peak, then end up missing a lift, and then you actually take a step back. On paper, you got weaker. As opposed to when you were challenging yourself in this gamified cardio, you can set new personal records in a variety of ways and also much more frequently. You can just have the completion of the challenge be a success. Then, you can reduce the time it takes by figuring out what pace to run the first mile and how hard to run in that final mile. You can figure out what order of exercise you want to do first. Say you suck at doing pull-ups, but your legs are very well conditioned. Then, do pull-ups first because they are the hardest. Then do the push-ups second, and then squats third as they come the easiest to you. Now say you're very strong at bodyweight exercises, then don't do the 20 rounds or the 15 rounds method. Do it all in 10 rounds. Do it where you do 30 squats, then 20 push-ups, then pull-ups 10 times in order to get your 300 squats, 200 push-ups, 100 pull-ups. So many ways to change the variables slightly and just get a better result. That is the whole fun of training. That is what life is about, finding your way to overcome the challenges. The other benefit is the physical benefits that I am getting out of this. Having a bigger gas tank is never a bad thing. In fact, it is the difference in most sports. Simply put, if you get tired, none of your skills matter anymore. So it is vital to build yourself up to not get tired. Even if you don't compete in a sport that requires much cardio, it builds the mental framework for you to resist and for you to be comfortable in the moments where you do feel destroyed. Due to challenges like this, I feel that I have developed a higher mental clarity in these moments of major struggle. If you reverse the clock to, say, 1 or 2 years ago, yeah, I might be able to lift more on a barbell at that point. But I know that I did not have this gas tank or the willpower to be able to complete this challenge. I'm not delusional. I know this cardio is very unlikely to make me more barbell strong, but I am confident that I am getting stronger. Truthfully, I view these challenges as a totally separate goal. One that really gets you to that place where it tests the grit in you. But beyond the grit, it's much more of a physical challenge than it seems. Unless you've been training in a CrossFit setup with a well-balanced approach of strength and cardio, it's very likely that one part of this challenge is really going to hinder you. So when you think of good cardio, you think of someone that runs marathons, right? You would think of this person as able to complete this challenge easily. However, if you are someone that has actually prioritized long-distance marathon running, it's very likely that the strength aspect is going to hinder you. It is probably going to go something like this. You run the mile in 6 minutes, then doing the squats feels very uncomfortable in the ankles and knees as you normally don't need to squat after you run. Then you will really hit a brick wall when it's time to do the push-ups and the pull-ups. because those muscle groups and endurance is underdeveloped. So even if your lungs are ready for the challenge, your muscular endurance may not be ready. That is this beauty of this type of challenge. It is a mixture of strength and endurance. If you're someone from a strength training or gym bro type of world, you're probably decent at barbell squatting. However, barbell squatting feels very different from a day-to-day life type of squatting. Being able to pop down and just do bodyweight squats, bend over easily, reach for things, it's all very valuable. So when you do a lot of these barbell squats, you almost get used to having a barbell on your back in order for you to squat properly. When there's no barbell on your back, there's nothing counterbalancing you, and you kind of just don't know how to squat down properly. Not to mention, you're probably used to doing barbell squats with knee sleeves and a belt. So it's very different from that everyday type of squatting. So just having the physical ability to do that in my day-to-day life is pretty nice. Having the confidence that I built myself to be truly functional, that I can shovel the driveway filled to my knees with snow without my back, my legs, or my lungs giving out. To have the grip to move that heavy table when called upon on Thanksgiving Day. To have the legs and the grip to push the lawnmower when needed. To climb up and down that ladder repetitively. To carry all the groceries in one trip, or to walk up and down the flights of stairs without being short of breath. That is the functional strength that the Murph Challenge can give you. Okay, so say you are sold on this. You're interested in trying out the Murph Challenge. The way that I would set this up to start with is the highest amount of rounds to get all of the work done. So by splitting it up into more rounds, each round is slightly less difficult. You'll be able to sustain long enough to complete all 300 squats, 200 push-ups, and 100 pull-ups. If you try to get ahead of yourself and do it in the lowest amount of rounds, your heart rate will go through the roof. And not to mention, you'll hit a wall when your muscular endurance gives out, making the rest of the reps very hard for you. Say you are very strong, you just banged out 200 squats in a row. Now you're completely gassed. How are you going to do the last 100 squats? So say you are decently into fitness. I would do this Murph Challenge with a light warm-up run of 1 mile. Then the high rounds like I suggested, so something like 20 rounds or 20 sets of 15 bodyweight squats, then 10 push-ups, and then 5 pull-ups. Then a decently paced 1 mile back. I would do this once a week for at least a month or two until it genuinely feels like it's a lot easier than when you first started. From that point, progress by reducing the total amount of rounds or total amount of sets. So I would go to the protocol that I am using in this video right now. I am doing 15 rounds of 20 bodyweight squats, 14 push-ups, and 6 to 7 pull-ups. So each round becomes more difficult now, but since you have adapted and you've gotten fitter, you can progress to this. Stick with this as the bodyweight exercise set and rep scheme until it feels pretty easy, and then progress once more, reducing the total rounds. Now I call this the big boss progression. This is 10 rounds of 30 bodyweight squats, 20 push-ups, and 10 pull-ups. Do not underestimate the difficulty of this. It is not just doing 30 squats, 20 push-ups, and 10 pull-ups once. It is doing this 10 times with no rest in between. You might be able to do 10 pull-ups pretty easily, right? Okay, but have you done 10 sets of pull-ups every single minute while also doing squats and push-ups in between? I would guess probably not. So don't shoot yourself in the foot by starting here. So say you are really this fit, and at this point, you should just start adding weight. You see, officially, the Murph Challenge is done with 20 pounds for men and 10 pounds for women. I would add the weight at this point and start from the top once again. So start with that 20 rounds, then build it up to 15 rounds, and then lastly, when you are truly fit enough, progress to 10 rounds. Now, say you do get to this level of fitness. From there, you're still interested in cutting the time down, right? You are going to have to find your weak points in this whole setup, which for sure there is one. So say on the second mile, you are really gassed. You need to find a pace that allows you to keep putting one foot in front of the other instead of varying your pacing based on how fatigued you are. So say your weakness is push-ups. You're not great at push-ups, right? Spend extra time on another day to do push-ups so that you end up being more efficient here, ultimately cutting the time down it takes for you to do the entire Murph challenge. Similarly, if you're not great at pull-ups, consider doing pull-ups on another day. If you just improve your pull-up max by a few reps, it will make a huge difference come time to do it for the Murph challenge. First off, if you can complete this challenge, give yourself a pat on the back. It is a difficult challenge that most people cannot handle. However, if you're talking about competitive times now, I would say 40 to 50 minutes is an average pace for most athletes. Under 40 minutes is definitely an elite time. So for perspective, in the 2016 CrossFit Games, Josh Bridges completed this workout in 34 minutes and 38 seconds. That is what I would consider the record, and it is done in a competition setting, under the bright lights, and fully filmed. Now, of course, CrossFit competitors do this with a kipping pull-up style, as there's no restriction on momentum being used on pull-ups. They are trying to get the fastest time possible, so it's only logical for them to use the form that allows for that. For me, I'm not tied down to any standards. I'm not a CrossFitter. I'm not in any competitive metric for this challenge, so doing it in a normal pull-up fashion is fine. I would say if you are not a competitive CrossFitter, I would recommend that you do it no kipping pull-up style, just straight traditional pull-ups. So this challenge is one of those things that a lot of people in the fitness space will be aware of, and they'll have a number. They will have either attempted this challenge once, or they will say, hey, it took me this long to do the Murph challenge. And honestly, it's a pretty good point of reference for someone's general fitness, as it is not weight class dependent or high skill dependent. It's very comparable one person to the next. Now, I saw Mark Zuckerberg post on his Instagram that he was able to complete the challenge with a weight vest in under 40 minutes. So that is super impressive. So unless you want to be poorer than him and less in shape than him, you too should probably get on your Murph challenge. Now, enjoy the rest of the suffering, and I'll see you all on day 4 of a week of training in 2023.